Okay, go.
Standing up? Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'll be presenting my socialist immigration project on the topic of a melting pot or the Mosaic of Canada. So I'd like to start off with a quote by John Buchan, the Governor General of Canada from 1935 to 1940. It goes like this. Immigrant groups should retain their individuality and each make its contributions to their national character. Essentially, what John Buchan wanted each immigrant group to do is to retain their individuality. Often referred to as the land of immigrants, Canada is renowned for its cultural mosaic, in which the immigrant groups keep their identity and culture. However, through my research of the Shanghainese immigrants in Vancouver, I have come to the conclusion that Canada is neither a perfect mosaic, nor is it a perfect melting pot. At first, I believed that Canada was a perfect mosaic in which immigrants' cultures remained uninfluenced. But then after listening to my first interviewee, Encounter Story, my opinions changed drastically. She emigrated from Shanghai in 1986 because she had wanted to find more opportunities. At that time, China was in the middle of a series of student riots that resulted from the slow pace of economic and social reforms. Many people were thinking about leaving China for Western nations where there were less governmental control. Among the Western nations, my interviewee had chosen Canada because, quote, it had less racism and was more culturally diverse. Her preconceptions of Canada supported my initial hypothesis of the Canadian mosaic. Now, a main aspect that came up many times during the interview was the difficulties and hardships she had faced. One of these difficulties was the language. As soon as she had landed in Canada, she started working as a waitress. But not knowing much English, she took orders by item numbers. Realizing that her English would never improve like this, she decided to take initiative and learn through everyday life. Instead of taking orders by item numbers, she now took orders by item names. Furthermore, while other immigrants asked for bank representatives who can speak Chinese, she asked for representatives who cannot. Through hard work and, in her own words, not being shy, she had overcome one of the most important barriers that all immigrants face. Now, another example of the difficulties she had faced was her job. Many, if not all, of the Chinese restaurants she's worked at were owned by first-generation Chinese immigrants. Now, these immigrants are the ones who are the most closely linked with the Chinese heritage and ideology. In China, employees often work over the maximum working hours because of the lax governmental control regulation on the employment laws. This working culture has been brought to Chinese restaurants in Canada. My interviewee often worked over the daily limit. But then, although she arrived to a society where racism was rare, and many cultural groups lived in harmony, she still had to work extremely hard to earn a living. In many ways, her experiences parallel that of the early immigrants who arrived in Canada, who expected riches and a life of comfort. So far, her personal experiences have all aligned with the Canadian cultural mosaic. Her conceptions of the multicultural Canada, the hardships she had endured, and the restaurant owners who preserved their Chinese working culture all support the mosaic. I then approached the topic of my research, food. Why did I choose food? Well, because everyone loves food. No, seriously, food is such an indispensable part of our life. All cultures have their own unique cuisines. If something so unique were to change or assimilate, then it would challenge the idea of the cultural mosaic. For this reason, food is the perfect research topic for me to discover whether Canada is truly this multicultural mosaic. When I asked my interviewee what were some of the major changes in food she eats, her response took me by surprise. She said that she eats 60% Western food and only 40% Chinese food. I knew that she's been here for 20 years, but I did not expect her to assimilate into Canadian culture so much. Her children, she explained that the reason for this change in food was because of her two children. Her children grew up in Canada and in time preferred Western cuisine over Chinese. Currently, their diet comprises nearly entirely of Western food. Now, this shows three different things. Number one, cultural assimilation does occur in immigrants. Number two, assimilation occurs even more so in the second generation. And thirdly, if this trend continues, the immigrant culture would be completely lost if there were no new immigrants coming into Canada. these food points, it shows that Canada is not a perfect mosaic, but nor is it a perfect melting pot. After listening to the oral history of someone else, I realized that in many ways, my family has also been assimilated into this culture. While interviewing several members of my family, I've realized that our lifestyle and how we do things have also changed. We're no longer able to follow some of the traditions we have done so back in China, but we've started doing many new things, such as celebrating Christmas. When I reflect back on what my first interview had said, I realized that the food my family eats has also changed. Even though we've only been here for 5 years, there's a huge difference in food preferences. Because such a change occurred so slowly, I had not realized this before listening to my interview. My parents still prefers Chinese food over Western food, but even they have started to enjoy most of the Western food in restaurants. Through my research, I've learned that Canada is in fact both a mosaic and a melting pot. My first interviewee's experience with restaurant owners showed that some elements of the working culture is preserved. However, the food culture is not preserved in many cases, and the new immigrants are one of the only things that are keeping it alive. Although my initial hypothesis has been disproved, I have learned much from the stories of other Shanghainese immigrants. However, I believe that the most valuable things I've taken away from my research was reflecting on myself and comparing how my experiences were similar to those of other immigrants. Thank you. Should I present my post-score?
Yeah,
I think we should just eat. I think eating would be a good idea.
one interview, but it sounds like you did more.
Yeah, like my whole project is based on one big interview and several smaller ones with my family members.
Okay, so it's family everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like I asked my teacher if one is enough and I have a lot of information on one, and he said yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Should I introduce my poster? So I made a Chinese style door on this side, spray painted it, put some things on, and a Western style door on the other side, just to show the two different cultures here in Canada. So if you open this door up, you will see that this side is Chinese food and this side is Western cuisine. And I have a Western restaurant title here. It's basically in Chinese calligraphy, Shanghainese restaurant. The centerpiece of, okay, I'm just introducing the sites. These are Shanghainese food, and this is more Canadian food. This is like the food the first interview in the restaurant waitress now eats, and this is what she used to eat. So these two are basically can be found anywhere, but the last two can be found here in Canada because the material used to make these dishes are so speaking of like bringing tradition from China to Canada, it's impossible to bring these two dishes because it's simply impossible.
Have you eaten sushi card from the meal?
Yes, I have.
And do you enjoy them?
Yeah, I actually like a lot of them a lot. That's why I put these in, because I actually like them.
Well, what are they tasting?
This one is just like a roasted fish. That's really tender. And the bottom one is just tiny pieces of eel, but then cooked like roasted.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
You said it was like a Shanghainese restaurant. Did you choose that because you're from Shanghai or?
Yeah, because I'm from Shanghai too.
Is the person you interviewed from Shanghai as well?
Yes, she is. The centerpiece of my poster is basically an infographic on how on what my interviewee now eats. 60%, 40%. It lists some of the main points of my speech here. The children born in Canada was a main influence, and here is just some information about immigrants. Yes, Mac?
How did you get in touch with the lady from Shanghai? Is she a family friend or?
No, actually, I don't know her that much before I interviewed her. She was a restaurant waitress at a restaurant I eat. It's a Shanghainese restaurant too, so it just fits. If anyone wants to see the sources I used for my project, I used some online journals, one from Palmer and Howard. It's called Mosaic versus Melting Pot. I've used some other links too from websites, and I have two different interviews, one from my parent and one from the restaurant waitress. Okay, so without any further ado, does anyone want some food?
I would love some food.
Oh, questions of food. Any other questions?
Nobody's made questions.
Okay,
It's really
food. So, This is.
See what motivates you.
Yeah. So I've got some steamed buns here.
Yeah.
And
Is these the bowls?
no, you can take some one of these.
Oh, fantastic.
I don't have enough, but we can.
I can't, Duran. I need them all for me.
Okay.
Is nobody else having any food?
I'll have some.
I'm videotaping.
Okay. So you guys.
I'll
can
get
grab
food
some
later.
if you want.
Beauty.
Yeah, just go. Take a plate and then take a chopstick.
Oh my goodness.
Not gonna have a chop.